Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. We're definitely going to have some fun with this tutorial. So we're going to let's paint. Now normally that term would be used for drag queens that are going to get ready in their makeup. So I thought that would be a cute title for my videos. It's called Let's Paint, where we can explore colors, different styles, even though generally I've been doing the same face for a while. But you know, as they say, if you find your face, stick with it for a while before changing things up. So for today, we're going to be playing with a few different palettes. I'm going to be playing with the Wet n Wild, Not a Basic Peach palette. And we're going to be playing with maybe a little bit of this turquoise, some of the nudes. And then for lips today, I thought we could have some fun doing a berry tone color, mixing in the 420 from Maybelline in the shade Deepest Cherry, and Wet n Wild's Liquid Catsuit in the shade Berry Down Low, along with some different blushes, some different tricks, because I wanted to try out something with this Revolution Cosmetics liquid highlighter jelly and try something that I've kind of noticed that some Instagram users do, which is taking it all over their face after their primer to give it that real shine before putting their foundation on. But I will do that. I will do primer, the jelly, the eyes, and then the foundation. So like always with the eyes, I'm going to be, well, before that, we're going to go into priming. So taking my two signatures, the Rose Primer Serum from Wet n Wild from the Rebel Rose collection, which I do believe is still available online since they always keep their collections online, thankfully. And then the One Heck of a Blot Primer from Soap and Glory to help with my oil levels, especially around my nose now that the springtime is coming. My oil levels are starting to kind of get a little more drastic, especially in the mornings. But I have been using a oil or a pore primer, a pore P-O-R-E face wash to help minimize my pores and control my oil levels. So taking my Real Techniques buffing brush, which is available at Walgreens stores from Real Techniques, just putting a little bit of that rose primer on there, and we're going to start distributing that along the face. And I wanted to do this earlier than 8 o'clock, so I'm actually a little more awake, because I noticed in my last video I was very quiet, not only from concentrating, but because of how late it was and how tired I already was. So I thought, why not do it while the sun is out, so I actually had some light to play with. And we're just going to distribute that rose primer along the basis of my face. And the one thing I love about it is it smells like roses, which helps out with the tones in your face, which is why like rose toners are like the thing these days, especially with like Aveeno, Garnier. Physicians Formula definitely, especially with their rose all-day droppers, used to use that as a primer all the time when I was working at Walmart before I ran out finally. Now taking that One Heck of a Blot primer, we're just going to work this onto my T-zone, which is basically my nose, the middle of my forehead, and a little bit down my chin and under eyes. This just helps with the oil levels because it soaks it up and acts like a blotting sheet, which is perfect because I don't want my makeup being disturbed is a better term, under my oils. And this time I'm going to try to be a little more vocal with things, since the last time, like I said, I was so quiet, I actually looked like I was out of it. And I kind of was, which was stupid. And generally, you want to let your primer settle in for about a good 30 seconds before putting on any product, because you want to let it soak in first before putting anything else on it. All right, so now I'm going to take this Wet n Wild large stipple brush. I did get this at Walgreens because I think it got mixed up in our inventory, which wasn't a basic item. But I do believe you can find these online as well, along with, I believe, Five Below. But to me, I love using this as a distributing product. So now we're going to go in with the Revolution Cosmetics Jelly Highlighter in the shade... I guess Prestigious. They had like a silver and a gold version, but I chose the gold just because I never really play with golds much. And we're just going to slowly work this onto the face. almost giving like a fake tan look too. Goodness me. Whew. Shine is right. I look like I've been baking in the sun on Jersey Shore. Like I said, this is a first time trying this technique out, so I'm kind of curious to see how well it works. Just slowly blending that all around. Okay, so now that we look like we've been baking in the sun, now I'm going to go into my eyes. So I'm going to go in with my Hard Candy eyeshadow primer and using a Flawless concealer brush from e.l.f. I'm just going to blend out along the lid up to the brow bone because that's where all my shadows are going to be at, and this will give it something to hook onto. When you're distributing products, be sure that you're doing like either stippling motions or swirly motions, but don't ever drag it around because then you're going to be dragging it, and sometimes doing that you could actually be dragging product off your face. Especially with like liquids and foundations. Usually with powders, it's not so bad since powders are a little more lightweight. It's just liquids that can easily be distributed across the face and to where they could actually leave marks, especially under the makeup. Okay, so taking a little bit of Scotch tape, just gonna try to get most of the adhesive off. And then laying that across my eye as such. All right, digging into the colors, I'm first going to be going in with this light transition color, just so that way it gives us a good base to start with. You don't ever want to go in with your darks right away, because then it's going to be a real pain in the butt to blend out later. So to pack that on first, I'm going to be taking, oh, that's a good brush to use. This Wet n Wild fluff brush. Just going to dip into that transition. Pardon me, I cannot speak. Be sure you tap off any of the Fault Access powder. Okay. Now we're going to take this Wet n Wild eyeshadow brush from the Rebel Rose collection. It's basically looking like a black rose. We're going to take this little tannish tone. And we're just going to shape out this eye. So you want to work with your lightest colors first before moving on to the darkest, because then it helps build a seamless transition amongst that, it will also be an easier way to blend these colors out, because if you went like with black straight away for your defining color, it's going to be a real pain in the butt to try to blend and buff out later. Ooh. And then we're going to take another fluffy brush. And also be sure, don't fall into my bad habits. Clean your brushes, or at least do a good job trying to clean off the products before starting on another. I use this makeup brush mesh grid that I got from Walmart when I was working there. And you could just rub your brush on it and it gets rid of the product real easily. So next we're going to go in with this darker transition shade. Honestly, these don't have colors or names to their colors, which is a shame, but you know. We're just gonna work this into the crease a little bit. And then taking another fluff brush, and I'm going to be going in with this sort of turquoise color. It's got a little metallic sheen to it. And we're going to work this into the brow section, just sort of. There we go. And then just taking that one fluff brush and just sort of help blending these colors in together. Okay. Like I said, today is just all about playing with colors and different styles. And taking this fluffy brush and just trying to blend the product out along the brow bone area. Always want to be sure that you're blending your colors unless you're going for that sort of harsh line look. Now for liners, I'm going in with my two besties, the Get In liner from CoverGirl and the Master Precise All Day liner from Maybelline. I use one to sort of fill the, well, actually even before that, I'm sitting here getting ahead of myself. We're going to cut this crease using my Lid Glitz from Black Radiance Eye Appeal in the shade A-Lister. I'm so stupid, I swear. And this is like a sort of bronze neutral tone. We're just going to use this to cut the crease. And then I'm also going to be using our Walgreens brand concealer brush to shape it out and make sure everything's all evened out. There we go. So now we're going to use the Get In liner to start out the liner. And then going in with that Master Precise All Day, just going to shape this out a little bit more. And I always overdraw my liners because of having a hooded lid. Because if I did just a regular liner and if it was still wet, that would transfer up to the lid and show that crease fold. Therefore, I would have a yeah, that was what I was afraid of doing that with the tape. So I'm going to try something a little different as well. Yeah, that's what I was afraid of with that. Well, once I start putting the foundation on, it's not going to really matter as much. So now we're going to go on to the other side. There we go. Starting off with that transition color. So then, I definitely have some really good news for you guys. On the 17th of April, for those of you who know that I work with Walgreens as a beauty consultant, I'm going to be hosting my own makeup class live at the store. So from beginning to end, from primer to the finishing touches, I'm going to do my whole face. So that way I can show people exactly what it is that I do and how I do it, which will be including like my contours, my highlights, the way I do my eyes, and basically just showing my step-by-steps of how I do my makeup. And I want to try to keep it as interesting as possible since I want to do it to where I could show people how it is I do my face all the time. So I'm actually going to be doing a 2-for-1 special by showing them how I do both my exaggerated look and a modern daywear look using the same eyeshadow palette, concealer, and well, not concealers, but the same foundation and eyeshadows and brows. But as far as the concealer and contours, those are going to be two different things because this is going to show how you can achieve two different looks by using like sort of the same basic products. God, you see, I'm sitting here messing up already. Thankfully, I didn't put it on. sort of given like a sort of a carnival style mix. Okay. And now we're going to move on to the brows. Actually, before I even, so brows. For today, I'm going to be using a brand or a different product instead of my e.l.f. since I want to try showing that we can use something that we carry at my store. So using my two trusty brushes, I'm going to be using our brand's brow brush. If I can find it amongst this mess. It's in here, I just can't find it. Honestly, I swear, it's like as soon as I get myself ready for this stuff, I can't find anything that I'm needing. There you are. So I'm going to be using the L'Oreal Brow Pomade in the shade 215 Deep Brunette, since my e.l.f. one pretty much ran out. And the good thing about doing your shadow first is it gives you a kind of a guideline. There we are. And really, there's no, I guess, trick to them. I just sort of follow along how the shadow is and just use it as a guideline. Pretty much like that. Just simple and easy. And then taking my e.l.f. brow brush, I'm going to be taking my traditional eyeshadow that I use, which is Maybelline's Made for... Good. The Made for Mocha, which is like their dark brown eyeshadow with the brush. Now, if you're really concerned about your brushes, you would use like a little cup of water or eye contact solution so that it's a little safer for your eyes. I wonder if my lids are starting to get heavier because I'm starting to see the glitter. And I've never been able to do that before. And I probably said this story like 100 times by now, but I shaved off my brows because I was tired of having to maintain them with like the threading or the cutting or trimming. So I just said, screw it, and just cut them off. And it gave me a better reason to start practicing drawing them on so that way I could even draw on my daytime brows, even though it might seem strange for a guy to be drawing on their brows. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with a little bit of androgyny. And that's sort of the one thing I started loving with, like, even with Eureka O'Hara, is that she does a lot of androgynous style makeup. So that way she can be both herself during the day and nighttime. Disappeared. Did it cut off? This is what I hate about this. And now on to the foundation. Hopefully it's still working. And now we're going to be going in with my two foundations, the Rimmel Lasting Finish 25-Hour Breathable Foundation in the shade 101 Classic Ivory, and the Revlon Candid Foundation in the shade 130 Ivory. Because they're both kind of a sheer foundation, they'll help sort of build that full coverage that I used to have with the L'Oreal Infallible. But since I'm on a budget, I couldn't afford it, so I had to settle for these two for the time being. Must be something with the connection. Unfortunately, this is what happens when you have to do it live stream, because there's no way of controlling it, and I don't know how to edit videos to where I could just pre-record this, edit it down, and work with it. Well, at least the good thing about this liquid highlighter on the face, it makes it a little easier to kind of smear the foundation on. But I don't think I would do this as a regular thing just because it makes my face feel kind of weird having something liquid like that lasting on there all the time. Oh yeah, and for the foundation brush I'm using, it's Gotta Be Urban foundation brush. I got this at Ross for like a set of $14 for a set of 3. So one was like a foundation brush, a concealer brush, and a contour brush. But we also carry these from Real Techniques as well at Walgreens. And I love how it's flexible, so it gets into those nooks and crannies real nice and easily. But I still use this Wet n Wild foundation brush to just get into the smaller details like the nose and around the eyes. So that way I'm not messing anything up as far as the eyeshadow. And we're just going to do the neckline a little bit. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I'm real lucky that I'm one of those people that when they shave their beard zone, it doesn't leave a huge 5 o'clock shadow. To have to color correct, especially under a full coverage foundation or even the mustache area. So when you have to color correct like that bluish undertone, you would have to use like a light orange, or depending on your skin tone, but I would have to use like a very light orange or peachy. Ooh, that was what I was afraid of. I hit the brows, but we could fix them up. But oh God, what was I saying? See, this is what I mean. I get distracted so easily. I forget what I was talking about. Oh yeah, color correcting. So for instance, like if you have a reddish hue to your skin, especially with like high pigmentation, you would use a green color corrector to cancel out the red undertones under foundation. For those that have like dark circles, or in my case, the beard zone, I would use an orange color corrector to neutralize that bluish undertone that gives under the makeup. For dull skin, like if you have like that sort of grayish undertone, you would use yellow, I believe, to brighten up the complexion. And then for those that have like oh, I can't remember exactly what lavender and the purples and blues are for. I think it's if you have like yellowish undertones, you would use the blues to cancel that out. Here's where I start getting all groggy again, but now on to my concealing / highlighting, which is going to be my tried and true Infallible Full Wear Concealer in the shade 320 Porcelain. And this is almost like a generic, not generic, but L'Oreal's version of the Shape Tape from Tarte, in my opinion, because it's got an extra large applique, which helps with spreading out the product without having to use so much. And it is a full coverage, so a little definitely goes a long way with this product. And I'm just distributing it under my eyes. Where is that one brush? No. No. No, 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 no. There you are. And I'm going to use both my Sleek, I don't honestly know what brush this is. It's supposed to be an under eye brush, and my Walgreens foundation brush to get this around the eyes a little bit more. And then taking my L stipple brush, just gonna pat out and blend out that edge. Let's see. See, I try to think of things to talk about because I don't want it to be just me being silent in this video, these videos not having any substance besides just me doing makeup. And if you guys want to type up any questions, I'm definitely willing to answer because I don't want to just sit here and be silent. Because I can concentrate on this and read the post at the same time. I haven't personally used a beauty blender yet, but I did just get the Walgreens beauty blender with the infused charcoal, which I will practice with here soon. But I personally love using the brushes because I have a bit of a more articulate hand because I used to draw and I took art classes. So I'm kind of more prone to using the brushes more than anything because it feels like, as queens do, they paint on a face. So I'm painting on with makeup, which feels a little more natural to me than just taking a blender and just going. So personally, I prefer using a brush more than a blender, but I will practice and try them both to be a little more versatile. Now then, on to the contouring. So for contour, it's going to be the same brand and product, but in the shade 390 Cedar, which we do not sell in Walgreens because this was mixed in the truck, but I definitely stand by this as one of my best contours for my cheeks because it's literally just 2 blots and then blending it out. And I'll show you. So you go 1, 2. And instead of using my mask brush this time, I actually started using this Real Techniques multi-face brush. Not this one. This is my blending one. Where is that little orange nub? There you are. There she is. Now that is what I call a good blended cheek. Yes, ma'am. But in due time, I will start practicing with a beauty blender, especially to do the concealer, since maybe the brushes might not be the best of options at the moment. But it's all I know how to do. So in due time, I will practice and try using a blender to show that I have a little more versatility. In the words of Bianca Del Rio, I will show you versatility when Santino wins a fucking sewing competition and Massage wears a fucking turtleneck. Ain't gonna happen. And I always like a very precise cheek, just because it shows like I have a little definition. I'm taking whatever's left and just doing my forehead. Onto the nose. And I'm just going to be taking my Pride and True nose contour brush and taking a little bit of the Sculpt and Go from Jordana or any other cream contour you can find. Distribute a little on the brush. And then taking that mask brush and actually buffing out those edges a little bit. And I'm a very open book with anything, except don't go 18 and up, but I'm willing to answer a lot of even different questions if curiosity hits. Because I want these videos to be a little bit more to show who I am as well as a person, other than just somebody who's just putting on makeup. And then taking this CoverGirl True Blend Fix-It Stick in the shade D6, 7, and 8, 5, 6, and 7. Granted, I think it's a discontinued product, but I usually take a contour stick that's just a little darker than me. For me, like I said, I've done nothing but use a brush to put on my makeup ever since I started, because I never thought I would ever want to use a beauty blender. But I said the same thing about lashes, and now I can't get enough of them. So in due time, I will learn and start using one just for the sheer entertainment of actually being able to use one, especially for the under eyes with the concealer and stuff. All right. Now that we have the base set, it's time to powder this down. So I'm going in with my Coty Airspun Naturally Neutral to set everything with an even playing field. Using a Wet n Wild blush brush, I believe, and just patting her down and making sure everything's all blended and looking nice. Pappity, pappity, pat, pat, pat. Pappity, pappity, pat, pat, pat. Thinking back, I kind of amazed myself how I first started off with like Dollar Tree makeup, and it's got me where I am today. I still kind of consider myself a little bit of a novice, because there's still so much to learn. Like, to me, I think with makeup, it's a never-ending process of learning how to perfect your craft, finding what works for you, what doesn't, what shapes work for you and what don't, or even what colors work and what don't. So that's why I say, like, even though people would like to say like what my looks are kind of flawless, I kind of look at that as a bit of an insult, because then it tells me, like, well, what else is there for me to learn? Granted, I take it with a grain of salt. It's just me. I have a weird way of thinking, and half the time I feel like I lead myself into such stupid situations of thinking that way, and either take things too seriously and not jokingly, since I've been told. But I want to learn how to perfect this craft so much and take it to the next level, like how Jeffrey and Nikki and everyone else in the makeup industry has changed their ways from where they were to begin with to where they are now. Like, I want to be that person at some point. I may not want to handle the responsibilities of like doing stuff what Jeffrey does, as far as like making your own cosmetics brand and stuff. I want to sort of be the James Charles of stuff, where I can show off. I could do a lot of stuff with makeup, but not really make stuff, you know? Like, I would hope that one day I could get sponsored by like maybe a brand to show off their products, because I like to consider myself blessed and cursed with a versatile skin that doesn't seem to be affected by anything. Because I've tried things from Dollar Tree makeup to cheap stuff like Wet n Wild to the prestige stuff like Number 7, or even Sephora. And so far, I haven't had a product that has disagreed with my skin or broken me out. I will say maybe the one product that has disagreed with me was the one of Physician Formula's eyeliners that has the little red bottle with the kinky boot on it, or the kinky high heel on it, to where it just kind of kept making my eyes water. But then again, that could have been just me pushing it into my pushing it into my waterline a little too far half the time. And it just kept irritating my eyes. On top of that, I've used generally a lot of products, which is what I wanted to do with this job, is to be able to try on just about almost everything, so that way I could give people an honest experience of how I think it feels. So now we're going to go on to contouring, which I use bronzers because I think a contour palette just is a little too harsh for me. I'm actually going to use my e.l.f. bronzer palette that I thought I had gotten rid of, but it turns out I haven't. And using a powder brush from Sleek, just amping up that contour a little bit. Yes. That's what I love about doing the cream contours. First, it gives me a mapping of where my contours and highlights need to be at. Basically, it's like what Cameron Michaels does, is that she maps out her face before putting on the powders. So that way she has a general idea of where everything sits at. And definitely the one thing I would love to do is be able to show off products like what Nikki and Jeffrey do from time to time, is just get products to show off their colors or how I would use them. Because just because a product says it's for this and that doesn't necessarily mean it has to be. Like for instance, it's blush. You could use blush even as an eyeshadow, especially if it's like a good red blush. Because how often do you ever see like red eyeshadows besides Sugar Pill Cosmetics? God, I'm blind as that. And now I'm taking my 2 contour brushes from e.l.f., one for my contouring and one for my highlighting. I'm actually going to use the highlighting part to do my nose real quick, because when you put the lights down first, the shadows won't overtake it as easily. And then taking my Ultimate Blending Brush, I'm just going to buff out here because I don't want it looking too far out. And then using my sleek powder brush, I'm going to be taking my pressed powder from Wet n Wild in the shade Warm Light to do under the cheekbones to kind of rebuild that little line there. For blush, I'm actually going to do quite a few different tricks here. I'm actually going to take this darkest shade in this Revlon Out of This World cheek palette in the shade, it's called the Sunset on Pluto. I'm going to be taking that darkest tone and trying to keep it closest to the edge back here, because this is going to be kind of a semi-drag look. Absolutely. That's what I love about working with Walgreens. I want to show people that drugstore makeup can work just as effective as that high-end stuff you would get at Sephora. I'm not shading anyone, because I think all makeup in general is fabulous. I just prefer whatever's in my budget range. So then we're going to take my little Color Matte blush in the shade Mauve Luas, and using my angled blush brush, because as the statement goes, it's not the product, it's how you apply it. You could be someone that works with nothing but Wet n Wild, and you could achieve a flawless look that Fenty Beauty could achieve. Because it's just makeup. I mean, generally they almost all do the same thing. It just depends on the consistency and the formula. But I could sit here and use products that I had Wet n Wild only and achieve something that you would thought that was like Sephora styled. But I love all brands of makeup regardless of who they are. Granted, some people might not agree with me, like especially if it's not cruelty-free and stuff. Unfortunately, I'm just going to be one of those people. I like all makeup regardless. I mean, granted, yeah, it's not a good thing to say, but I'm an animal lover too, by all means, but I don't know. There's like a conflict with me with that kind of stuff. Next. Give me 1 second. I'm going to go turn the air on. It's getting hot in here. It's all professional, Aaron. There we go. So then I'm also going to take this blush brush from Sleek and buff out that blush a little bit more. And then we're just going to go over that highlighted area. That same pressed powder. Definitely giving you drag today. Not that I mind. Okay. Now on to the cutting of the cheeks. I'm going to be taking my Coty Airspun in the shade Translucent Extra Coverage along with a little beauty sponge, a little powder puff. Granted, though this product has talc in it, I think it's the best setting powder to set the face with and to define the cheeks and everything with. And then we're going to go down the center of my nose and the forehead. And then what I'm going to do is take this Real Techniques blush brush, and I'm going in with a lighter tone blush, which will be from the Fit Me collection in the shade 30 Rose. And we're just going to touch it. How long have I been with Walgreens? Since September of last year. September 13th, I believe, was when I started. And it was right after I left Walmart working as a designated cashier for cosmetics. I was basically a cosmetics security guard because the Walmart I worked at had its own section built off for cosmetics because of it being a high theft section. So basically put, if you didn't pay for your makeup then and there, it would have to be placed into a locked security box that you would take to the front because, just be real, people steal. We don't know who could be a potential and who couldn't be. So basically, it was my job to lock away facial washes, cosmetics, brushes, razors, and perfumes if you didn't pay for it then and there. Not exactly the best place to be for someone that's got a bit of a short temperamental attitude. But at the same time, I did my job and did a good job at it at best. whether people liked the concept of what Walmart was doing or not, I thought it was actually a brilliant, smart move. Because it saved the money, because generally, from what I remember, when Walmart did their inventory checks year-round, cosmetics was like the top 5 of the highest sections that got hit the most with theft and loss of money. When I was working there with this concept of locking everything away during inventory, they were 13. What does that tell you? That whether people like it or not, if cosmetics has to be locked up in order to save money, so be it. I agree with it. Because I would love to believe how we could live in a world without theft and stupidity, but unfortunately, fairy tales don't always have a happy ending. And that sort of brings up to the same concept at my store. Before I left on March 1st from my flight to Ohio to go visit my husband's family for the first time, on that same night that I was packing, apparently 18 of my number 7 line correcting booster serums have been stolen. That's $41.99 times 18, which is almost $755 worth of products that had walked out of my store. And then we went to only putting out only 2 at a time, and they ended up getting taken as well. So that's another 25. That was up to 25 of those correcting serums that had been taken out of my store. You can imagine how irritated I was, because that's my responsibility of an area to keep an eye on. Granted, I wasn't there for it. That goes to show. Like I said, I wish we lived in a world where people didn't do that to one another. Like, I'm a kind-hearted person at heart when you try to meet me. I try to be. But you cross me the wrong way, and you and I could be having some problems. So don't sit there and try to go stupid on me either. Woo! Now for the under eyes, before I start highlighting. So I'm going to use this Perfect C brush from e.l.f., which I believe is what helps to do that C shape. I'm going to be taking this semi-dark shade and working on the under eye first. This is where I say you could use a dark color first. Yeah, our store isn't 24 hours, so I'm a little grateful for that. But I can imagine you guys that have a 24-hour store, it's difficult. And what's worse is when you just don't know exactly who could be a potential and who couldn't be. And I really don't like having to sit there and think that people could be ready to steal, but it's just unfortunate that's where it's come to these days. And then when we sit there and take the precautionary measures for it, then people get testy with us, and it's just like, well, we're just sitting here doing our jobs. I'm sorry. Well, anyways, on a lighter note, we are going to be taking that same dark color and going to shape out this crease just a little bit on the edges here. It really is. It definitely helps to create that curvature that you're needing, along with getting better control since it's already a, hold up, a densely packed brush. So you could use that for your under eyes really well. There we go. So that kind of adds a little more drama into the shape of the eyes. I'm also going to take that darker transition color and just kind of buff it into that lower line, or the down here, to smoke it out a little. And then, of course, just taking brush to kind of clean up that edge a little. Now on to highlighting, my personal favorites. So I'm going to be going in with a few different highlighters. For starters, I'm going to use this Physician Formula's Warm Nudes. I'm just going to take my highlighting fan brush and just swirl it all around. Yeah, we've been married for about 2 years now. We technically got married when we filed our taxes together January of last year. I'm also going in with the Lumi highlighter from L'Oreal in the shade Rose. But we've been together going on almost 9 years this August 13th. So we met in high school from 2 different states. He lived in Ohio. I lived here in Oklahoma. And then he moved down here for me. And we've been living under the same roof for the past, I think, about 4 years now. Like I said, my memory is so shoddy half the time, it's unreal. And then finally, for the last bit of highlight, it's going to be Love at First Blush from Silk & Glory. This has a more pinkish undertone, so this kind of helps build on top of my blush a little bit more. Yeah, you could say something kind of like that, high school sweethearts, but he lived all the way up in Ohio, and then I lived here in Oklahoma, and then eventually he moved down here for me. And then about 2 years after that, we both moved in together and been there since. We're here since. And we both work under the same company, just different stores. He works as a pharmacy tech, and then I work as a beauty consultant. See, that liner's kind of creasing a little bit, but once we put the lashes on, you're not going to be able to notice it. And then we're also going to highlight those inner corners of my eyes, which I almost completely forgot. And there she is. Going to take this e.l.f. blending brush, and we're just going to pack on a little bit of that Lumi highlight. And then just... Yes. There we go. And just a little bit. Now onto the lips. This is going to be the challenging / fun part. So for lips, I use two different specific brushes for it. One of them is going to be the full lip brush from Real Techniques. I swear by this brush, it gives me that perfect curvature that I need, that I've been trying to achieve for the longest. And then for blending the lipsticks together, I'm going to be using this Wet n Wild eyeshadow brush. I got like 5 of them because they all do a good job. I use this to blend my lip colors together. So for the liner, I preferably use a gel liner over a pencil any day, just because it blends in a little bit more. So I'm going to be going in with the Jordana lip liner in the shade Cabinet, because that's a good berry toned color. Well, more of a wine, but I always like a darker darker lip line over a lighter center. And these lip liners, even the Wet n Wild ones, blend in beautifully, especially if you're using like a brush like this to blend it. And I overdraw my bottom lip just a little bit to where there's like this little line divot that's there. That's where my mark is to stop. See that lip liner, this brush just blends that out wonderfully. Now for the upper lip. This is where I'm going to have to be silent for a minute. General rough estimate, and then there we go. Now onto the lip colors. I'm first going to be going in with the Darkest Cherry from Maybelline and blend this out first. And then going in with Berry Down Low, I'm just going to glide this all over. Sort of a little Bratz doll moment, but hey. All right, now for lashes, I'm going to be going in with a custom pair that I made. So this is a mixture of the Ardell 251s and the Kiss lashes in the shade style corset. The Ardell 251s are a bit of a strange lash to me because they have both the flared ups and the straight outs. I mean, this is how they look generally by themselves, where they have sort of a flared up and a push out, and the corsets have like a little bit more spikes to them. So I kind of like that sort of spidery look. Like they're kind of, in essence, a mini 301s, which is a drag queen's traditional lash. So this is going to be the left eye, which is my always pain in the ass eye to do because I'm right-handed dominant. And as they say, always wait for it to be a little tacky before putting it on. Because you put a lash on while it's still wet, you're going to really make or break your eye makeup and everything else. Onto the right eye. And for mascaras, I'm going to be using two of my favorites. Oops. So I'm going to be going in with Maybelline's Snap Mascara in the shade Black, along with NYX Cosmetics Full Figure Mascara. Since it is waterproof, I don't normally use a waterproof every day. But if I want my lashes to keep a good curl, I would use a waterproof mascara as an ending. But I always go in with a regular mascara too. Actually, instead of the waterproof, since I'm only getting a shower tonight, I'm actually going to go in with my Volumizing mascara from Revlon. Just a little touch up here and there. Now for finishing up the lips, I actually do use a pencil to kind of finish the curvatures. So I'm going to be using this Nabi lip liner that I got from a friend. She was giving away a bunch of makeup, but I cleaned them. And I'm just going to touch up the lips a little bit. There we go. Just kind of darken those lines a little. Now, if you really want to give these lips a little flair, here's a little trick of mine. So I'm going to take this Physicians Formula Butter Gloss Butter Highlighter in the shade Pink Rose, and a little highlighter fan brush that I got from the Real Techniques set. There we go. Just gives a little bit of a pop of color. And then for the piece de resistance, my favorite little trademark of mine, I'm taking my Ink Me stamp tattoo from Rimmel and just bloop. One little heart mold coming up. And then I would finish this off with setting spray, but since I'm getting a shower after this, I really don't want to waste it. But this is pretty much my looks. So we have a little bit of color, a little bit of drag, some glam, some shimmer. There we go. Mixing in a bunch of different colors and got a pretty fun carnival style look. Not upset about the lips. I actually think these are a little Bratz doll, a little fun. But I do hope you guys enjoyed my video today. And like I said, on April 17th at my store at 12th and Santa Fe on Walgreens, we are going to be painting live starting from start to finish of how I get my looks. And like I said, I'm going to be taking the same products as far as like foundations, powders, and shadows, and I'm going to show you how to get two different style looks, my drag style look to a more contemporary style look. But until then, guys, stay beautiful, be you, and always remember, have fun with makeup. It's always going to be around, and if you mess up, wash it off and start again. Don't Don't overthink everything, because then you're never going to enjoy the process. But until then, be you, be beautiful, and always be outstanding. Love you guys.